Everywhere was shrouded in darkness and an eerie numbness crept through my legs. A familiar tune pierced the silence, sharp and hoarse, echoing from some distant place. The sound grew louder with each passing moment, yet I couldn't discern whether it was I who drew closer to the melody or if the melody itself was inching towards me. As I reached out, desperate to grasp it, I suddenly tumbled onto a cold, unforgiving surface and light exploded into the abyss. The sound, now piercingly sharp, blared in my ears. I jolted upright and raced to the bathroom where my alarm clock shrieked mercilessly. Mornings were my nemesis and placing the alarm out of reach was my only salvation against the lure of sleep. I took a quick glance at my reflection in the mirror and the cruel remnants of the previous night's torment slithered back into my mind. Last night was definitely a mess I did not want to take with me everywhere. With a weary sigh, I trudged back to my room absently humming my ringtone. Relief washed over me because it was only 6:15 a.m., and I still had time to make it to work, but as I entered my room, the view of the chaotic mess my room was shocked me. Rumpled clothes strewn across every corner and my eyes narrowed in on the most gut-wrenching sight of all, my phone, lifeless and the charger useless beside it. No, 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 I wailed, stomping towards the dead socket, frustration etched across my face. The heat was unbearable and without power, the day loomed like a nightmare. How would I iron my clothes? How would I charge my phone or power bank? How would I even get to work? Work, the word tasted bitter, weighed down with despair. I had no job. The memory of yesterday crashed down on me like a tidal wave. My boss had summoned me with that deceptive smile of his, and naive as I was, I thought it was for the promotion he'd promised. But instead, he laid me off, his demand for something more sinister than I could ever give still hanging in the air. The memory burned, and I hissed in disgust. What a wretched excuse for a man. Then, out of the fog of my thoughts, a face emerged. Jonathan, his name slipped from my lips and my eyes riveted with curiosity. The man who had pulled me back from the brink of my own reckless despair. Was he all right? He had saved my life, and it seemed only right to wonder if he was doing okay in the aftermath of it all. Aura, my mother's screech echoed through the walls, slicing through the early morning silence like a jagged blade. I groaned, dreading the confrontation that was about to unfold. She had thankfully gone to bed before I came home and I had hoped foolishly that sleep would erase the anger she'd held. But no such luck. Aura. She screamed again, her voice growing sharper as she pounded on my door, each thud like a hammer striking a chisel like I owed her a fortune. Well, I did owe her money, but it was my money. Aura, I know you're in there. Open the door, she shouted, rattling the doorknob as if she could shake it off its hinges. There was no escaping her fury now. I glanced longingly at the window, the sounds of distant cars and neighbors greeting the dawn. For a fleeting moment, I considered leaping out to embrace that peace instead of facing the storm on the other side of the door. Reluctantly, I yanked the door open, meeting her eyes with a defiant stare. But instead of softening, her gaze burned with the seething rage of a woman who takes all but gives nothing. She shoved past me, slamming the door shut behind her. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of weakness, and when she found them, a twisted smile curled her lips. Without a word, she advanced, her presence menacing and suffocating. She fixed me with a look that chilled me to the bone. You see, she began, her voice unnervingly calm, I'm not going to argue with you now. When you get back from work, we'll deal with it. Now, where's the money from yesterday's pay? She extended her hand, palm open, demanding what she had no right to ask for. I said nothing, my silence confusing her, and a cruel giggle bubbled up from her throat. The money, didn't they pay you yesterday? She shouted, shaking me as though I were a piggy bank she could rattle loose. Tell me now, where is my money? She bellowed, each word dripping with venom. Get off me, I roared back, shoving her hands away with a force that surprised us both, and she stumbled to the ground, shock overtaking her as she looked up at me. In that moment, her fall felt like a release, a weight lifting from my chest. Seeing her on the floor, stunned and helpless because of me, stirred something within, a feeling I never thought I'd savor. Respect your parents, they said, but she had never truly been a parent. Rage boiled within me and I stared down at her with contempt smoldering in my eyes. There is no money, there is no work, I spat out, each word seething with the bitterness of betrayal. You want to know why? Because my wretched boss wanted me to sleep with him, and I said no. Yesterday was a nightmare, I almost got into an accident, and all you could think of was Aura, she shrieked, cutting me off. I said, where is my money? Don't just stare at me. Her scowl deepened, and a chilling realization dawned on me, snapping me back to my grim reality. I was still in her tight cold grip, frozen, trapped once more in the grip of her tyranny. Breaking free would always be a fantasy. Tears welled up in my eyes as I recognized the truth. I was still that little girl, her little girl cowering under her shadow and unable to break free. Now tell me, she said, her tone deceptively sweet as she stroked my hair. I don't want to yell again. It's almost 7 a.m. Where's the money, baby? There is no money, I whispered, defeated. I got fired. Her gentle touch turned vicious, her fingers tightening painfully in my hair, her face twisting with contempt. It took them 5 years to finally realize you're good for nothing, she sneered, releasing me with a final look of disgust before storming out of the room, leaving me in a shattered silence. Nothing but a waste, nothing but a big unemployed waste, she sang mockingly as she disappeared down the corridor, her hysterical laughter trailing behind her, growing fainter with every step until it faded into nothingness. I remained curled up in the spot where she had left me, engulfed in a heavy silence, mired in a pool of regret and despair. Just as the weight of my existence threatened to swallow me whole, the siren for power blared to life, slicing through the oppressive air, and the fan above me sputtered, then slowly began to spin, its pace quickening until a soft breeze kissed my face. I closed my eyes, letting the cool air dry the remnants of tears and sweat on my face. I could feel it soothing me line by line, and for a moment I knelt there, surrendering to the small comfort. The first rays of sunrise slowly filtered into my mundane room and onto my skin, warming my skin as I sat in complete stillness, listening to the rhythm of my heartbeat, the birds singing outside, and the hum of life beginning its day. Something was different. I felt different. Where I would usually be gripped by fear, by the urge to go and beg her forgiveness, I felt nothing, no fear, no pain, just an odd numbness that seemed to exclude her completely. Instead, everything else became more vivid, more alive, the beauty of the world unfolding in a chorus of sounds I hadn't noticed before, sounds I never believed could exist within my grasp. As the realization washed over me, I slowly opened my eyes and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror with a smile formed on my lips, soft and unfamiliar. My hands touched my face, exploring this rare expression, as if seeing myself truly for the first time. Had I ever smiled like this before? If I had, I couldn't recall. I rose to my feet, drawn to the melodies drifting through the window. Without thinking I began to sway, my body moving gently to an invisible rhythm, as if I were dancing in the tender embrace of a lover in a field of dandelions, with the wind as our music and the heavens as our only audience. I pulled back the curtains, opening myself fully to the sun and the sounds of the street below. There was nothing sweeter than this first taste of freedom, this newfound joy in simply existing, like savoring the very first bite of my favorite food, pancakes. I spun around to face my room, my eyes sweeping over the chaos that lay before me, a mess of clothes and clutter, yet despite it all, a grin stretched wide across my face. With a burst of giddy excitement, I bolted toward my bed and flung myself onto it, my face burying deep into the soft sheets. But then, like a cold breeze cutting through a warm day, a sudden thought struck me, freezing my smile in its tracks. I bolted upright, my heart quickening as I spotted my phone lying on the floor, abandoned and powerless. How could I have been so careless? Here I was, prancing around my room like a real-life Barbie doll just because the power had finally come back on, and my room remained an undeniable disaster. I stared at the mess surrounding me, clothes tossed carelessly, books scattered in disarray. Should I clean this up? I wondered, the thought briefly flashing through my mind. Nah, I decided, waving it away. I didn't have the energy for that, especially not after the night I'd just survived. Cleaning could wait for another day. Instead, a better idea sparked within me. With a newfound resolve, I dashed to the bathroom, eager to wash away the remnants of the day. Hours had slipped by, and I finally emerged from my room, dressed in a pair of worn bum shorts and an oversized white shirt, its once bold red lettering now faded, the yellow collar a relic of its former self. My hair, loosely gathered in a low ponytail, framed my face with an effortless carelessness. Where is she going? My mother's voice sliced through the air, laced with disdain. Her eyes, narrowed in disapproval, scanned me with a look that could curdle milk. With a sharp hiss, she spat, "Where does the jobless one think she's going now?" "I'm just heading out to get something," I replied, my gaze fixed anywhere but on her, unwilling to meet the piercing cruelty in her eyes. She stepped closer, her expression twisted with suspicion. And this something, does it even have a name? She sneered, her words like a snake's hiss, coiling around me. I could feel her gearing up to tear into me, to unravel what little piece I had left. But just as she drew breath to speak, the harsh trill of her ringtone shattered the tension, filling the room with its grating melody, and she immediately turned. Distracted by the call. With this I seized the moment without a second thought. I slipped past her and out the door, escaping into the world beyond her reach, leaving her anger behind. Finally I was out. I sniffed in the good air, and it felt so great as long as it wasn't under the roof that woman was. The sound echoed in my head as my eyes skimmed through the menu, a symphony of flavors calling out to me. My eyes darted from one mouth-watering option to another, so many tempting ways to have my pancakes stacked high with syrup, dusted with powdered sugar, topped with fresh berries, but every day, without fail I chose the same thing, pancakes and sausages. I'd ordered it so often that I didn't even have to ask anymore. Joseph already knew. He'd greet me every morning with that warm smile of his and a steaming cup of coffee I could never afford. "It's on the house," he'd say, his grin never faltering, but I knew every drop of that coffee came from his own pocket. I sat there, swaying gently with my eyes sliding over the prices, calculating what I could scrape together that morning. From the corner of my eye, I noticed Joseph watching me, his expression shifting from curious to concerned, scratching his hair, then his chin. I was clearly stressing him out, because usually by now, I'd have signaled him over, but today I just sat there, grinning like a fool, searching for the one dish that would completely annihilate my bank account. I knew I was stressing him out. His posture grew tense, a silent plea hanging in the air. I could feel his eyes boring into me, trying to read my face, to understand the mischief playing in my eyes. And then, I saw it, the one. My face lit up like a Christmas tree, and right on cue, Joseph appeared by my side. "You found the one," he said, smiling back with a twinkle in his eye. I could feel his gaze probing, trying to figure out what on earth was going on in my unpredictable mind. Please, don't ask, I thought, praying he wouldn't pry, but just as he drew breath to speak, I thrust the menu at him with a giddy squeal. "This one," I blurted, my finger stabbing at the double-decker cinnamon and bacon stack like it was the Holy Grail. "Yeah, that one, and, coffee. A large one," I added, settling back on my seat with a satisfied grin. "A large coffee?" he asked, eyebrows shooting up in mock surprise. "Are you sure?" "Yup, and I'm paying this time. Oh, and get yourself something too." "Do not worry, today's on me, today. I will be your sugar mummy," I teased, laughing as he walked away, shaking his head and chuckling under his breath with my name rolling off his tongue like a soft chant. I looked around slowly, savoring every detail with a smile that spread from ear to ear. The cafe felt different today, warmer somehow. It wasn't just the soft amber light casting a golden glow over the chairs or the gentle hum of music that filled the air like a comforting blanket. It was something more, a sense of belonging I hadn't felt before. My gaze drifted from the cozy surroundings and then to him. Joseph, my heart softened as I watched him, standing there like a quiet piece of art I never grew tired of admiring. He had that effortless way about him, always calm, always kind. I couldn't help but smile as I stared, feeling almost childlike, like a little girl eyeing her wish list. His hazel green eyes found mine, locking me in place. He smiled too, that familiar gentle curve of his lips, and in that moment, it was as if the world had paused just for us. He caught me looking again, like he always did, and like every other time, I tried to hide it with a playful raise of my brows, pretending it was nothing, and he mirrored it right back, sharing the quiet joke between us. There was an understanding in those brief glances. He never judged me, never asked for more than I was willing to give. He just was, and I was grateful for that. Whenever I looked at him, it always felt like time slowed. The way he moved, especially when he made my breakfast, was always so deliberate, like every gesture was made to be noticed. He'd look back at me as if to make sure I was watching, and I always was. That was the moment I cherished, before the rest of my day swallowed me whole, except this time was different. This time I wasn't in a hurry. I had all the time in the world, and all I wanted was to spend it here, watching him, waiting for those pancakes. "There you go," he said softly, his voice pulling me from my thoughts. I blinked rapidly, suddenly aware that he was standing beside me, my plate already in front of me. "Thanks, buddy," I muttered awkwardly, nodding at the food like it held all the answers. The pancakes looked so perfect, but I felt like a mess. "Are you okay?" Joseph's voice was filled with concern, his head tilting to the side as he tried to catch my eye. I laughed nervously, pushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear. I'm fine, buddy, I said again, cringing at how strange it sounded, like I didn't know how to talk to him anymore. My stomach churned with unease the more I spoke. He replied, unconvinced. You're not fine, but you'll tell me what's going on, eventually. Let me get your coffee first, okay? He smiled, giving me a look that said he wasn't going to drop it, and walked away before I could protest. I sighed, sinking back into my chair. I knew he wasn't going to let it go, and a part of me didn't want him to, but for now there were pancakes. I glanced down at the golden stack and took a bite, letting the warmth of it fill me. The pancake was soft, airy, like biting into a cloud spun from butter and sweetness. As it melted on my tongue, it released a burst of flavors, a symphony that played just for me. I closed my eyes, letting the sensation wash over me. Each bite was like a step into a new world, each flavor a note in the song. First, there was the rich nutty warmth of burnt butter, dancing perfectly with the spice of cinnamon. It was the kind of moment that made you forget the world for a while, made everything else fade into the background. I took another bite, smiling softly to myself, letting the colors and tastes swirl inside me. For just a little while longer, everything was perfect. I opened my eyes slowly, adjusting to the soft glow of the cafe, and there he was, Joseph, sitting across from me with that same familiar, warm smile. I couldn't help but smile back, though it felt awkward, like my face had forgotten how. He was watching me closely, his eyes gentle but intent, as if he were trying to read every emotion flickering across my features. You seem to really enjoy it, he said, his gaze still fixed on me, a touch of amusement in his voice. I paused, wiping the corner of my mouth with a napkin, and leaned back in my chair. I hate you, seriously, Joseph. How come you never told me about this gem? You let me order the same boring stack every morning. He laughed, a deep, genuine sound that made my heart skip. You do know there's a menu, right? I just thought that was your favorite. I shook my head, feigning annoyance. How could that be my favorite when I hadn't tried everything yet? Look at this, I gestured dramatically to the plate in front of me. This is a favorite, not whatever that other thing was. Joseph chuckled again, shaking his head, and I playfully frowned at him, letting the moment linger. But the lightness in the air shifted when his smile softened, replaced by something more serious. Why aren't you at work? His question came gently, but the concern was unmistakable. I froze mid-bite, choking slightly as I heard the words I had been dreading. I blinked at him, trying to compose myself, but my mind was already spinning. Why did he have to ask that? Work? I stammered, trying to buy myself time. Yeah, work. His tone was calm, but he leaned in a little, pushing for more. I swallowed hard and forced a grin. Work is good, I sang, trying to make it sound light, but it fell flat. His eyebrows shot up, clearly not the response he was expecting. Work is good? What does that even mean? Define good. I felt the panic rising, my heart racing as the truth pressed against my chest, ready to burst out. I got fired. The words circled in my head, but I swallowed them down, hard. Instead, I shrugged, pretending like it was nothing. What I mean is, I'm on a day off. That's why you're seeing so much of me today, I said, my voice shaky as I shrugged in an attempt to appear casual. His expression softened, though I could tell he wasn't fully convinced. All right, if you say so. I'm happy though, he added, his voice quieter now, more tender. At least I get to see you. There was something in the way he looked at me, something that made my heart skip. His eyes, warm and unyielding, seemed to pull me in, and without realizing it, I smiled, a soft, almost bashful smile. I wanted this moment to stretch on forever, the two of us sitting there, locked in each other's gaze, suspended in time. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of movement. My heart sank as I recognized the figure marching toward the cafe. My mother. Panic surged through me, and without a second thought, I bolted upright, startling Joseph. What's wrong? He asked, his hand reaching for my arm, his face filled with confusion. Can I leave through the back door? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, the anxiety bubbling up inside me. Joseph's face was a mix of surprise and concern, but he didn't question me. Back door? Sure, he said, standing quickly and guiding me toward the back of the cafe. His hand remained on my arm as we moved, his touch grounding me in the midst of my frantic thoughts. We passed through the narrow hallway, and my heart pounded louder with each step. We had reached a door that led to a quiet street. Will you be okay? He asked, his voice low, his eyes searching mine as he towered over me. There was hardly any space between us now, and I could feel the warmth of his body, the soft thrum of his concern wrapping around me like a blanket. I nodded, barely able to find my voice. Yeah, I whispered, my gaze locking with his. We stood there for a moment, the world outside the door forgotten as our eyes held each other's. His hand lingered on mine, guiding it to the doorknob, and together we twisted it open. As I slipped through the door, I glanced back, my heart still caught in the moment. Joseph waved at me, a slow, tender smile spreading across his face as he watched me run up the street, his gaze following me until I disappeared into the distance.